Alright, this is going to be less of a normal theory and more of a disturbing revelation I've had. So, everyone in the FNAF fandom knows how bad a Springlock failure is. If you're not a FNAF fan, how the hell did you get here? The books even on occasion have described it and given us a good understanding of what it's like to go through one. What if I told you getting Springlocked like our favorite killer in purple was not the worst outcome he could have gone through? So let's establish some of our rules of a Springlock failure. In essence, a Springlock failure is the outer mechanisms that you have pushed to the sides to climb to the costume. The short stories and novels kind of treat things a little differently, but at the core, it's stuff jamming into you violently. Now, what's concerning about this is it is not a fast death in any continuity. It is this slow, brutal, crawling series of crunches and pierces along your body. It's sometimes a little different, like in the games it seems like everything goes off at the same time, but you still don't just die. You have time to suffer. In Tales, it's more like this progressive crawl along your body of like different things clamping down and crushing you as you suffer horribly slowly and lose more and more control over your body. And this happens to William. It all goes off along his body, he collapses into a pool of his own blood in the back room. But that is the best case scenario because there's another scary thing about all this. The reason everything is clamping down is because you're in suit mode switching to animatronic mode. And as FNAF 3 shows us in brutal detail, that means you are subject to the whims of the animatronic. See, the whole reason Springtrap chases around the sounds of kids, as Phone Guy explains, is because Spring Bonnie, the animatronic that he is stuck as, is programmed to go towards the sounds of children. This fundamental feature of the Springlock suits, primarily Spring Bonnie, is so powerful that it gets the 30-year-old rotted animatronic to get up and walk towards the sounds of like sound bites of kids in other rooms. That is how much more priority it has over you in the costume than you have over it. So let me paint a picture for you. You are an employee at Fredbear's Family Diner or Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, as FNAF 3 confirms the suits were used in both locations. Or even Baby's Pizza World, but we know almost nothing about that Springlock suit. So, to illustrate to you how horribly brutal this would be, I am going to describe it to my best ability. You climb into the sweaty, awkward costume in the back room. It's a little worn out because you're just trading shifts with some other guy, you don't really know him, this is like your first day. This is your first time really putting on the costume. And you're nervous, like rightfully so. The guy over the cassettes literally said you might bleed out in the worst case scenario. So you have reason to panic, but you do everything right. You get all the Springlocks compounded with the cranks, you've got the costume on, you got the mask, you're seeing through it, you're good to go. You're careful, you're cautious, you're walking out, things are going fine for a bit. You talk to some kids, celebrate a few birthdays, it's a few hours into your shift when a kid comes running by with some soda in their hand. They're not paying attention to you or where they're going, so they bump into you and the cup spills all over you. You feel something violent, sudden. It's something clamped down on your leg. Wherever the soda spilled, locks are failing, things are piercing to your legs. Your screaming and rising heart rate only make things worse. It accelerates the process even faster. More and more crushing and turning of your metal go against your will. But things worsen quickly. You try to go back to the back room like instructed, so maybe someone can get you out. Someone maybe can pry you out of there to get you enough time to survive. Maybe you break a leg, it's fine, relatively. As long as you're alive, as long as that fulfilled prophecy of bleeding out doesn't come true. But things get worse quickly. Spring Bonnie has officially activated, and he hears children, and rips your body away from where you are headed. One consistent thudding pace keeps instantly going and going and going, bending legs and limbs and joints where they shouldn't be going against your will. You're just panicking, you're flailing, you're freaking out, you're screaming, but Bonnie doesn't care. It's a machine, a cold, heartless machine that you are slowly realizing you might die in. The more things clamp down, the more things pierce into your arms and limbs. The mask itself is pressing against your skull, squeezing it. But it doesn't just pop, it just keeps compressing. The force just keeps increasing. You can't even tell if your coworkers are trying to help you or not, because you're just so out of it. Everything becomes hazy, and the screaming starts to die down as metal wires and other parts start pressing against your throat in awkward, uncomfortable ways. It's hard to even make a sound that resembles a person between Bonnie's voice and your own, compressing and compiling and chasing each other. You make noises, but they're just meaningless at this point as this pre-played music box drones in your ear loudly, blaring towards kids. It gets hazier, blurrier, hazier, blurrier, hazier, blurrier. You can barely even collapse on the floor as Bonnie tries to drag and march you on towards the kids. By the time employees try to pry you off of your suit and pull Bonnie away from your skin and bones that it's melted towards and clamped onto, it's too late. There isn't a you to pull out of that suit. Now, maybe that's not how Scott would depict a springlock failure, but given what we've been shown, given the details about these suits, this is what it realistically would be if you had to check off all of the boxes of how these things perform. If you were to take everything the games say literally, this is what a springlock failure as a performer would be like. This is what I mean when I say Afton got off easy. Dying in the safe room, as Phone Guy says, is actually the best course of action. That's a hidden room no one can get to. There's no kids for it to hear to want to walk towards. I almost wonder if that's part of the reason that William couldn't move as Spring Bonnie all those years. Like, sure, maybe the safe room was sealed up or whatever, but like, there had to be some time period where he could have gotten out where he just didn't. He was just stuck back there. And it could just be that Bonnie's programmed to be zeroed out and wait back there until he's set to be active again. Because you're supposed to compress the animatronic mode to climb into it. The animatronic isn't supposed to do anything in the safe room. In fact, the other animatronics that we see aren't even allowed to recognize it as existing. I wonder if Afton couldn't move because Bonnie wasn't programmed to be allowed to move. At the very least, hopefully this was a cool little audio play, audio drama I could demonstrate. Honestly, the whole being trapped in the back room for 30 years is probably the bigger punishment for William than the springlock failure. Especially when the death itself could have been horrible. Especially as a guy who wears this costume to kill kids. Surprise, William! The blood of the kids you're killing doesn't mix with your moisture-prone, damaged suit. At the very least, I hope this was cool. I'm not sure how this one will turn out. Oh yeah, it's spring locking time! Don't put that in the video.